And it's really nice to be back here after about 18 months since I last visited, and having a great time touring around all your, or nearly all your state capitals, meeting people. And the family have just arrived, so it's slightly less civilised and relaxing. Without further ado, so this is just to give you an idea of what's coming up. The basic issue is the big problem with performance in crime prevention. Big history of implementation failure in UK, US, everywhere basically in the common law world that does kinds of crime prevention, we understand it. Also in France, but they don't do any evaluation, so they don't really know. I want to then look at, apart from conventional explanations of why things fail, to look at reasons connected with knowledge and knowledge management. Then home into how knowledge should be used, but unfortunately is not used, practice, delivery and policy, and how practitioners and local, regional, national policymakers select, replicate and innovate with crime prevention practice. Then I tell you a bit about how I actually tried to design a knowledge management system rather than just plunging into creating one. This is one of the things I've started to learn a bit more from the designers that I work with now. Brief look at existing knowledge management frameworks and finding them not really measuring up very well, although they're very popular, and then introducing my own attempts to meet that spec in terms of defining crime prevention, institutional settings, the process model, which is the 5 Eyes framework, and the model of causes and interventions, which is the conjunction of criminal opportunity. Then, depending on whether we run out of time, a few examples from Operation Moonshine, which is about illegal drinking and disorder of young people in a particular town, and obviously one sort of starts musing philosophically at the end of these things. So, implementation failure. Loads of success stories in crime prevention, individual projects which have been developed by combinations of ACE practitioners and academics like Ken Pease in the UK. They work really well and they stand up to rigorous evaluation, and then the government says, great, we'll have hundreds of those all over the country, and then squelch, they don't work, unfortunately. And the approach of problem-oriented policing in particular, they have put, in the UK and the US particularly, they've put an enormous amount of effort into getting skills, knowledge over to local practitioners, and really a study of looking at entries in the UK's national award system for good problem-oriented policing over the last 5 years said there's really been no measurable improvement in the performance and the design of these interventions, despite all this effort that's gone in. So there's a serious problem here. Kind of explanations that go the rounds: project management skills, limited analytic capacity, hence that 55 Steps book that Ron Clark and John Eck produced, with excellent book. Short-term funding issues and over-centralised management. Some of these, what Peter Hommel reported when he was kind of guest evaluator of the Home Office Crime Reduction Programme a few years ago. And an unfriendly, unsupportive organisational context. Well, these are all unfortunately taken for granted and they need fixing, but the issue that I'm interested in is limitations in crime prevention knowledge and how we capture it, how we do this through impact and process evaluation, how we manage the knowledge. And poor knowledge management hinders performance of community safety at policy level, delivery level, practice level. If there's one theme that underlies all this for me, it's the failure to handle the complexity and the messiness of choice, delivery and action that creating and maintaining crime prevention and community safety requires. So, just stepping back quite a long way, and thinking about the kinds of knowledge that research and evaluation can supply. This is about the 7 or 8 Ks, I can never count them. The 5 Is, the 7 Ks. And, I mean, the one that actually stands out is Adrian Cherney's 10 Cs. I don't quite get as far as that. But knowing about crime problems is the causes, the patterns, the consequences, offender misbehaviours, and so on. Know what works, obviously familiar enough for this institute. Know who to involve, because most crime prevention doesn't actually involve the professionals in doing the intervention. It involves getting other people to do it. I think the latest popular phrase is third-party policing. Know when to act in relation to all the other local activity that's going on. Especially in deprived areas, there's normally quite a lot. Know where to distribute your resources in terms of priorities, fairness, and so on. And the know why issue is all about the symbolism of crime prevention. If, for example, a Campbell systematic review showed that it was, without doubt, the best, most cost-effective way of dealing with serious, prolific young offenders was to send them on expensive SAIL training courses, and that really worked, and it was really sustainable in its impact. The headlines in some of the right-wing press the next day would completely smash that out of the water. So, you know, one cannot just proceed by rational evidence alone in this area. And then the last thing, which brings all the Ks together, is know-how, how to put it into practice. Users need know-how for several major tasks: defining a crime and safety problem, selecting the intervention methods to apply which are evidence-based, which fit their particular crime problems in their particular context, and also fit the priorities and the resources of the organisations they work for. Having selected, they then need to replicate them intelligently, and in many places replication isn't possible or sensible because they're going into new contexts, or the limited stock of what works knowledge doesn't actually cover what they're trying to do. So plausible innovation based on generic principles. So even the most obvious copycat replication seems to involve a lot of innovation, tweaking it to adjust it to new contexts. You can't just go in and hope that it'll work. There has to be a kind of shakedown and adjustment. And to support innovation, you need, on the one hand, generic principles of intervention, ideally derived from theories which have been tested in depth themselves. And you also need a lot of detail on practical methods, which broken down into elements which can be recombined in different ways. So it's kind of combinatorial innovation. You evaluate a car theft prevention project, let's say, and it didn't work, but in the course of that project there was a wonderful way of mobilising the local people. You can salvage that from the wreckage and use it elsewhere. So it's capturing the knowledge of that sort of thing, which often isn't done. So the kind of information which evaluations capture tends to be too limited to get the best out of it to inform policy delivery and practice. With impact evaluation, knowledge tends to be too narrow to help policymakers, delivery managers and practitioners select what to implement. The process evaluation, too simplified to help this replication and innovation.